Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Wednesday. Want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as season. I got a word for you. Tap in. Happy Wednesday, guys. So I jumped on. I want to make a record. I was asked to make a recording from someone who I was chatting with in regards to the process of the journey. And so after chatting with her, she's in my opinion, she's definitely in phase two. So I decided to kind of like just title this phase 1, 2, 3, right? Part 1, 2, 3 of the journey. So she's in phase two, which is the most difficult parts. So she asked me to make a recording because she can grasp it more than reading the email. So I think I'll just jump on really quickly, just in case someone else needed. If there's any of you guys who would like to chime in, your experiences, your testimonies, anything to really kind of motivate her, because she's really, really going through it. And she said she'll definitely be reading it. So, all right. So I just want to break it down again. Phase 1, 2, 3, part 1, 2, 3. Phase one, again, this is all my opinion. Phase one, it's just you're doing your own thing in life. That can be your career, that can be whatever, traveling the world. You're just doing your own thing, right? It's just the thing that you set out to do for yourself. And then all of a sudden you just get this call. You get a call, right? It's like, hey, right? And you're like, what is this? So it's like literally you're chosen, right? But God is not going to force you to answer that call either. No, let's be clear here. Also, let's be clear that that call is not always churchy, holy, respectfully. If it is, my God, absolutely amazing, seriously. But that's not for everybody, right? In fact, most times you wouldn't even really know what it is. It's just something that you can't even articulate. In fact, you have to be very careful trying to articulate it because you don't even know how to articulate it because you don't even know what it is. You're just like, something just dropped in my spirit, or I had this dream, or God gave me a vision, or someone just came up to me and gave me a prophecy, and it dropped in my spirit and never left me, right? You just know that there's something that tapped you and it's different. So because you don't know what it is, typically you would probably go and ask other people. These may be people who you deem to be a little more spiritually inclined than yourself, or just anybody, a friend or whatever. And this is a very vulnerable place to be in phase one, because most times people are going to give you their answer, their advice based on their own personal experiences. It's almost like God would not tell you to leave your job and relocate. God would not tell you to leave that man. God would not tell you to, you see what I'm saying? So it's not even that they're doing it from a bad place most of the time. They're just doing it from an ignorant place, right? Ignorant just means not knowing. And so if you are not a person to stand on what you know and what you believe, this is going to shake you. And a lot of people are probably still stuck in phase one because of what someone said to you. And it's still sitting there. And so it's almost like you're trying to debate with that feeling that you felt. But let me tell you something, my friends. Anytime God gives you something, you can't deny it. It's just in your spirit. You cannot deny it. And it keeps coming. It haunts you, like in a great way, right? It haunts you. It keeps, you just can't shake it. Even if you can shake that thing and ignore it, it's going to keep coming back, going to keep coming back. But then there's those of you like myself that you're cut from a different cloth, and you stand on what you believe, and you just know, like, oh, I hear you. Honestly, I hear you, but I can't shake this thing. I can't really articulate it to you, right? I wish I could, but I just know there's something. And then they're like, well, what is this something? And you're like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I can't put it in words for you. It's just a feeling of knowing that there's more. There's like almost like a yellow brick road. There's just this mystery. I can't articulate it for you, but I feel it, and I got to ride. Right? I got to ride. If I got to ride this thing solo, I got to find out what this thing is, because if it's from God, then I know it's good. So basically, that's part one of the phase. Just getting that call, right? You're chosen, you answered, and now you're ready to risk it. You're ready to risk it all. So you're walking away from that thing, that person, that place, whatever the conviction that God gives to you, because the conviction will follow, right? Again, there's like a puzzle. So he'll tell you what to do eventually. Again, it might be a relocation. It might be leaving that toxic relationship, breaking that soul tie. Whatever it may be, there's a grace upon you, and it will come easily. In fact of the matter is, if you get too confused, because mind you, this is phase one, so God knows you're extremely confused, what he'll do is he'll dry it up for you. So you may be like, I mean, I know he's asking me to do something, but I don't know what it is. What am I supposed to do? Right? So he knows you're confused. So what he'll do, he'll dry up something for you. So let's just say, for an example, he is calling you to relocate. He is going to show you this place. And when you get there, that's where your purpose is going to be. That's where all your great due season, all that stuff is, right? So he's asking you to relocate, but you're still not exactly sure if that's what he's saying, right? All of a sudden, you lose that job. You lose that job, or that relationship that was the only thing that was still keeping you tied to that particular city or place, right? That relationship falls apart. So he'll dry it up and cut it off for you, where it's like, okay, this gotta be a sign that he's asking me to relocate, because this thing was the only thing that was keeping me locked down. Or there may be some type of big blow up, some rift, like at the job or in the family, and everybody turns against you, and it's not even personal. It feels personal at the time, but it's God just having to do something. And yes, God is not a God of confusion. That's true. But God will take some things and turn it upside down just to get you on the path. So, all right. You're out. You're on your little boat. You're out. Phase one is done. Phase two, my God. Listen, let me just tell you, phase two is where, when they say only 20, well, I've heard they say only 20% of people make it to destiny. I can guarantee you, phase two is where they're turning back. Get your edge growth oil, whatever you guys use for your receding hairlines, go ahead and stock up on it, because, honey, you're going to need it times 12. Oh, let me just tell you, right? Because phase one is pretty quick. That moves along pretty quick. You answer the call, boom, get on the path, right? Phase two, you're going to be there a long time, because it's so much in phase two. Oh, I just had a flashback. My God. Phase two comes with heartbreak, rejection, delays, attacks, anything you can think of. Phase two is where it's at. Isolation, several times. Wilderness, several times. Even when you just came out of one, you think you're good. You're going back in there again if you fail a certain test. Let me just tell. Phase two is no joke, honey. Excuse me. Okay, so phase two. This is when you get to the location, right? And mind you, it may not be relocation for me or for you, but just kind of plug your scenario in, right? You get to the location, or you get to the thing, right? Or the person, whatever it is for you. You get there. In your mind, you just feels like, well, okay, God, I follow you. Everything's going to be pie in phase two. No, honey. No. It's almost like when you accepted that call in phase one, it's almost like you signed a contract. It's like a contract. So it's almost like when you get to phase two and you realize that it ain't what you thought it was, you can't even go back. Like you're tied in. It's so weird. I can't describe it. But you can't even go back. I guess you can go back, but you don't want to go back. Trust me when I tell you. So, now, in the beginning of phase two, Like, yes, my child. Woo, you answered. I called you. Yes, you're here now. Whatever here is for you. Now, I have to transform you, right? But before I can transform you, I have to teach you and help you unlearn the things you've known all your life. Not the last 5 years, all your life. I have to bring you back to when you were bullied as a child, when you were molested as a child, when you were when you saw your dad breaking a bottle across your mom's head. I'm just throwing some things out here. I have to bring you back to all the harsh things that were said to you from a step parent. I have to bring you back from when you were locked in closets. I got to bring you back to all these places, because what you were doing was, when you were doing things on your own, right, before phase 1, you were masking those things. You were masking those things with, let it be alcohol, let it be drugs, let it be sex, let it be any food, sweets, any type of addiction. You were masking those things. So those things were never expelled, uprooted and expelled. Those things were masked. So before I can transform you, I have to send you back to the trauma, uproot these things so they can be expelled. These are going to be things that you thought you really forgot about. It can be something from 2nd grade. Like you're like, I have never in my life even thought about that since that thing happened in 2nd grade, right? But it was always there. That offense was always there, but it was buried. So he's going to uproot all that stuff. Everybody who've hurt you, everybody, that stuff got to come up. You have to regurgitate that stuff. And let me just tell you, it's a very, very vulnerable moment, but it has to happen. All right. So now he's and keep in mind, this is all over a process. Now, this is just not no 1 day and 1 month process, right? This is why the transformation season takes so long, because there's so much going on that has to be stretched out. So, all right. So now he's showing you your heart from childhood and maybe early adulthood, things like that, right? So, all right. He brings that to your attention. You expel it. Now he's going to bring certain things to your attention from that heartbreak when you was 18, right? 19, from the first girl who rejected you, from the guy who didn't want you, all that stuff. All that stuff will come back up, and you're just like, and guess what? At this point, you're in isolation, because I forgot to say that. Phase 2, you're immediately going in isolation. You get to the location and boom, you go right to isolation, because all this stuff has to be completed in isolation. And all that other stuff you were using to mask it, like just sitting there eating nonstop and uncontrollably, because that's again, that's another form of addiction. It's just kind of like covering up the wounds. You don't even realize it, but strongholds, all that stuff. When you start processing that stuff, he strips that from you. Right? So it's not like you can have your addiction and you're eating your ice cream 24/7 and you're processing these feelings, or you can have your cigarettes or whatever your thing is, your porn or whatever. It's not like it would make it a lot easier, so you think. But remember, this stuff have to be uprooted and expelled from you in its most purest form. So the other stuff is just kind of tainting the pure form that he needs this stuff to be expelled. He's purifying your system. Your flesh, not your flesh, your spirit. All right. So, we're months in this thing, in isolation and dealing with these different emotions. And now you might be expelling some things, and now you think you can pick up the phone and call some friends, right? The same friends you just left, just to kind of feel great about yourself again, because you're feeling all lost and vulnerable. And honey, you you ain't calling those friends. not the one he just pulled you from. At least you're not gonna call him now. Not in that season. For what? He's trying to take you forward, right? So why would he potentially? And then, mind you, you're not even stable yet. So what? So if he have you still connected to the people from your past, because phase 2 is so difficult, if you still have ties to those people, that ex or those friends or whatever, who you may still love these people immensely, but it's going to be too much of a temptation for you to go back. So he just does something where, and the people just, I can't explain it, like a supernatural. The people just fall off. So it's not like you go to pick up the phone and call them and they say, I don't like you anymore. Or you say, I don't like you anymore. No, I can't explain it. But the people just get cut off. Like there's a feeling where supernatural is almost like you just grew apart. And it's weird because it's like, but I mean, how did I grow apart from you but it happens supernaturally. He does it just for this moment. These people will very much well come back. Some of them will come back. There's no doubt about it. But he needs you in this moment, just you and God. So when you go to pick up that phone, nobody like you. You're trying to call an ex, right? Because you're just trying to get some type of comfort, something. Child, please, you don't like them and nobody likes you. So just sit there in this isolation and let God do. And this is, I don't mean that, right? I don't want anybody to really feel like people don't like them, because I know people deal with certain triggers. It's not that people don't like you, right? They love you, but God is doing this. This is supernatural. So this is why they're not answering the phone. This is why they're rejecting your call. This is why they may have changed your number and didn't tell you about it. It has nothing to do with the people. It's God doing it supernaturally, because he knows you have to be stabilized before he can send you back to temptations. All right, so now you're in isolation. You've uprooted all these traumas. You don't have any friends. You're just all by yourself, and you're just looking around, and you're just like, where the hell am I? You're literally in the middle of the ocean. You came from being flooded with people, doing your own thing. I mean, you got everything at your hands, and you're comfortable. You know what certain things is, and you just like, your life is comfortable. And all of a sudden, you're in the middle of the ocean on a little boat, all by yourself. And as you turn around, you can see no houses, no land, no nothing but water. Lost, can't even go back, but don't know where the heck you're going either. You just know you're somewhere in the middle of the ocean, and you just what have I signed up for? Like, Lord, can you hear me? He's quiet. And you can't go anywhere. And now you got to sit in a season of stillness, which is also within phase 2, a season of stillness. You may feel like you're trapped, but what he's doing is he's stripping you out of that flesh of always having that fight or flight. Like when things feel uncomfortable, you want to always run back or convert back to what makes you feel comfortable, which would be those old people, which will be those addictions or whatever in the past season. So now he's stripped you. Right, you're raw, you're vulnerable. You can't find nobody, but you can't run nowhere. You can try to run if you want. You won't drown. You cannot run anywhere. So he is really disciplining your flesh against that fight or flight, which is very, very common in our community because of all the traumas we've experienced as people, et cetera, et cetera. Because when you get to where you're going, phase 3, there's going to be, if your flesh is not disciplined against fight or flight, you just trust the process. That's all I'm telling you. Trust the process. All right. So now you're in the season of stillness, and he's just got you there with just you and your thoughts. You still can't go nowhere. Just you and your thoughts in a boat. Nobody to talk to, just in this little boat all by yourself. And finally he comes back to you. Like, did you get the lesson? Are you getting the lesson? Right? Job well done. You didn't run, and you're just like, I couldn't run if I wanted to. Well, you didn't try, right? And then he starts to give you downloads of really what it is. Because remember, at first, you guys, I'm sure you hear my dog scratching all over the floor. Remember, at first, you just know it was something, but you didn't know really you didn't know what you were really working towards. Or you may have had bits and pieces of it. But within phase 2, he will start to show you what you're working towards. And so now you have an idea of like, okay, now I see why certain people couldn't go. Now I see why such and such, such and such. So you figure now, because he shows it to you and he tells you where you're going, that boom, tomorrow you're going to be there. Child, please, you about to sit another couple of years probably. I'm finally in phase 3. This is why I can just tell you, right? So, Tippy, please go. So, phase 2, even though you know what you're going, he's only shown it to you because he knows when he starts to transform you, transformation is hard, very hard within itself, that because you now see it almost in its entirety, that you won't run. And he's already conditioned you anyway with the fight or flight. So, I mean, you're going to stick it out. But he knows once he shows it to you, you're going to want it so bad that you're going to really allow this process to take place. So now he starts to transform you for phase 3. He's showing it to you, but you're not ready for it. He gave you a glimpse of it. So now everything now that starts taking place within your transformation, that can be, for in my case, definitely the very, very the very, 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 very long time of transformation with patience and forgiveness. Forgiveness was a long time, but patience. And I'm so much better. If I had to grade myself right now, I'll give myself probably. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know why I'm so tickled. I would give myself probably an 85, a B plus, if I'm honest. Where maybe for 10 years straight, I was only in process for like 5 years, but for 10 years, well, probably all my life, I would have given myself a minus 19. So to say I'm at 85%, right, over so many years, but within the season of transformation, it was like an acceleration. So he gives you a great, you get tested more and more, but then there's a grace to pass your test if you stay connected, right? And what I love about God is that even when you fail your test, it's not like you're condemned. You're convicted, yes. So it's almost like, oh my goodness, I'm ashamed of myself. I got to do better. But it's not like you're feeling all judged and stuff like that. No. But you're going to keep taking those tests till you pass it, right? So you're not going to be judged, but you're not going anywhere till you pass certain tests. I promise you, if I haven't learned, I've learned a lot of things, but one thing I've really, really learned, because I just felt like, God, a B plus, I think that's amazing coming from a negative 17. A B plus, can you just skip me to phase 3? But I'm telling you, I've learned certain things. You may know what it is for you. Yours may be your flesh, right? Yours may be whatever. That ain't the issue for me, right? Whatever that thing is for you, that is the hardest thing for you to pass. And God keeps bringing it back to you. And I mean nonstop. That's the one thing you must master. And I'm talking about A plus. I'm talking about 100. not even 92. There's going to be certain things, right? Some things can slide and he'll just work on it with you in phase 3. But there's going to be a couple of things, or one thing, or a couple of things, or several, that must be mastered, A+, before you can advance to phase 3. That's going to really be, how long you sit up in phase 2 is really going to be a number of things, but one thing would be how much work are you putting in regards to, what's the word I'm looking for? Like when you're really trying and you're really, really trying something seriously. Like you're really trying, like how much work ethic you put in within phase 2. And then you're going to get thrown in the wilderness. And you're like, what did I do now? Well, I've given you a certain period of time to master this test, and so let me just throw you back in the wilderness, right? So I can discipline you some more, right? Let me call you on the fast so I can discipline you some more, because you over here sitting here struggling with the 85 for the last 5 years. So listen, I'm ready for you to go. I need you in phase 3. So work with me here, right? So you going back in the wilderness if you like it or not, and you're just like, Lord. So now you're sitting in the house just looking at the walls. At this point in phase 2, oh, you know without a doubt. Well, let me take that back, because most people do go back. But for me, there was no question. There was no question if I'm going back. Meaning the journey is so hard and it's just easier to go back versus keep going through all this struggle and all this taming of the flesh with certain things just to go someplace. No. I ain't going back. Not when he doesn't show you what it is. And see, that's I don't want to say he traps you, because that's kind of like, that ain't proper to say God traps you. But what would be another word that's kind of like classy of somebody trapping you? But you already see, he gives you bits and pieces of it. So now while you're sitting in there in the wilderness thinking like, I'm going back to phase 1. Matter of fact, I'm going back to where I was before phase 1. And then boom, all of a sudden, he gives you a download of phase 3. And you're like, I ain't going nowhere. Let me just sit up in this wilderness and let me just read this word so I can figure out what else I got to do. So, all right. You've been through all this stuff. You've been through expelling these demons. You've been through, you still ain't got no friends. Still ain't got, you might have not met like a person or two. And typically the people you meet with in phase 2, they're going to somehow fit in phase 3, or God may just use them for a certain word, a certain revelation, a certain something, because you will be going through so much and there's so much confusion, emptiness, vulnerability, all that stuff in phase 2. Typically, he will send people to you who are more spiritually inclined or who've been on the journey, and can come back and just pour certain things to you or confirm certain things to you, because he knows you're really struggling. So you might just randomly meet a person for a couple of months and then they just kind of take off and you're like, but here we go again. Somebody's rejecting me like they did in phase 1. No, that person only came to really help you out, because God knows you were struggling with a certain thing, and he used that person. So you've gone through all that stuff and you're just still sitting there and you're just still trying to figure out, I'm ready to get to phase 3. I'm ready to get to phase 3. And this is where we really get antsy, right? Phase 2, you're very antsy. You have no patience, right? Even my most patient people, it's almost like you don't even have patience, because it's like, why would you show me? Why would you tell me that I'm going here or this is mine? I don't understand. Why didn't you just tell me 2 weeks prior? So you got all these stuff going on. You got anxiety. You're crying one day. The next day you get a download. You're excited because you think God's going to open the door tomorrow. And then you realize and you're happy. And you're going back in isolation for about a month for something else, and so on and so on and so on and so on. But the time will come where you're close now to phase 3, right? You're very close. You're not in there, but you are at a position in a posture where you're no longer full of anxiety. You're just in the waiting stage, and you're not even like pressed, right? You really have patience now. It's almost like it is what it is, right? I know he's going to get me there. I trust and believe, but I'm not all antsy and crazy about it. I'm just, whenever, it is what it is. It is what it is. That's exactly where God needed you to be. That's exactly where he needed to get you for different reasons. For one, when you're all antsy and full of anxiety and it's that sweaty palm, all excitement. I mean, excitement is great, but I'm talking about almost to the point like you're too giddy. Your flesh is too involved there. So wherever God is taking you, there's a certain way God needs to use you. But if you're still like all that high school giddy crush and you're nervousy and he can't use you like that. There's a reason why he's taking you where you're going. Right? So he had to kill that flesh. So the delays, and my God, there's a lot of delays. And what's the most annoying thing is you pick up momentum and you really think like, woo, I'm here now. And then you hit a delay. And those delays can be for a whole year. Just depends on you. My God. So, all right, you're not as antsy. You've already tamed your flesh. Most importantly, not most, but top 3, you have new insight. You have new insight. Now, because you're at a posture where you can hear and you're not fighting against everything, you have new insight. So remember, he showed you in phase 2, glimpses and pieces, where now it's almost, I don't want to say the entire picture, but there's enough for you to know exactly what it is, where you're going, who it is, whatever, you know. But now there's different insight. So it's like, okay, so when you showed me bits and pieces of it, it looked like it was like a fairy tale, right? That's why I was so giddy to get there, because it looked like a fairy tale. Where now it looks like work. It looks like work. However, there's some fairy tale sprinkle up in there, but it's more work than fairy tale. So then the new insight, you will start to get insight of the thing, insight of the place, insight of the people. You will start to get certain things that you have to war. In fact, you may have to war against things before you even walk into phase 3. Right? Again, all these add delays to why phase 2 is so long. Because there's so many different parts in phase 2. So now you're warring against certain things, but guess what? You now got that boom. You have that power to war because of all those years. And I know some of you who are just fresh in this thing, you're thinking, yeah, come on, years? Listen, I'm going to keep it real. I've heard some people say decades for them. I've heard, matter of fact, one of you guys commented and say you were, God gave you a vision 20 years ago. And I'm just like, I'm just now getting in phase 3 and it's 5 years for me. And you mean to tell me some people, 20 years? My God, what am I complaining about? So everything that you develop within phase 2 will be a requirement for phase 3. Because phase 3 is major. Yes, you're going to get some fun perks. You're going to get some fairy tale sprinkles, right? Going to get all that. But for the most part, it's major. There are massive amounts of blessings, but there's massive amounts of warfare and attacks. So you're going to have to know what you're doing when you get there. If God didn't take the time to process you and develop you and really, really introduce you to your gifts and amplify those gifts, phase 3 would probably take you out, honestly. You'll be somewhere in somebody's cuckoo house, seriously, respectfully. And that's easy now to go back and tell people who are in the process because you're now there. And this is why I think it's very important for people to always go back and share testimony, because when you really think when you was in those phases, man, listen. Being a visionary, being a seer, knowing that I know when I hear from God, being the most determined person that I've ever met, there were probably 3 days out of maybe a period of, 2 years. There were probably 3 days that I threw my hands up and I was like, please, I don't even want, leave me alone. Seriously, leave me alone about this. I don't want it. Honestly, I don't. Hands completely off of it. I don't want the promise. Whatever, I don't want it. I'm talking about tears. I'm talking about frustration, talking about depression. And I don't even, thank God, I don't deal with depression, but you have some, listen, that despair will hit you with some depression throughout phase 2. Phase 2 ain't no joke. Let me just tell you. But God is so good that each time you have a moment like that, something will happen. He'll send a random person to confirm. He'll show you something in the word. He'll always give you something, because he knows you're struggling bad. And he knows you're saying, I don't want it, I just want to go back. He knows that you're only saying that in that moment. So he's so good that he will always send something. And I might be that person for somebody right now. He will always send something to give you a new renewing in your spirit to just keep fighting a little bit longer. Always. Always. Each time, those 3 times and I was serious. Leave me alone. Serious. Or 3 times, he instantly, almost minutes, hours, send someone to say something, to randomly call me, and I'm like, Lord, please forgive me. And he's like, girl, I ain't paying you no mind. I didn't pay you no mind, right? And then that thing is fresh back in your spirit again. And then there's this new strength, renewing your strength to just keep pressing towards the mark. And then you got the people from the beginning, just doing before phase 1, you got these people who now feeling like you forgot, because they start to come back, right? They start to feel like you forgot about them, and you're just trying to get people to understand. I'm in this thing, and you have no idea how heavy, how many attacks, you have no idea. And mind you, you would rather go back. And they're feeling some type of way, and you're like, I'm trying to do this thing for us, like seriously, right? Please just work with your girl, right? You might don't see me for a whole year, but just work with your girl. I'm going to come back for you, right? And so the time will come, and guess what? That time will be when you least expect it. That time will be when you have finally settled your nerves down to the point of, you're probably already back in purpose, or you're probably you're just going on with your life, because it is what it is. It is what it, God, whenever you're ready, just tap me, right? I'm still good. But you still have to be connected. You got to still spiritually be grounded and connected, even though you're just back doing your own thing. A time will come when things are quiet and you're least expecting it. And there will be an acceleration in the spiritual realm. And now things go from being quiet and still to like, job well done, let's go. And now you're like, oh, wait a minute, well, hold up now. Am I really ready? Do I got everything I need? And God's like, girl, you done harassed my nerve for 30,000 years. You better get up and let's go. And you're like, well, hold up now. Let me just make sure. No. You harassed my nerves. Let's go. And now, wherever you get where you're going, wherever, whoever, whatever, you're untouchable. You're unstoppable. When people see you, they jump back because they feel the power. They feel your authenticity. They feel your spirit. They feel your strength. And all of that was developed in phase 2. When you walk in the room, you're not part of the room. You are the room. People are attracted to your light. It has nothing to do with looks and this. Flesh-wise, I guess. But it's about people are attracted to your light. There's something in you and everybody wants a piece of you. It's your girl, Kizzy Rock.